Welcome to Cultimatum, the podcast uncovering the dark realities of cults and human trafficking. I'm your host, Anonymous Andrew, and each week we dive deep into the manipulation, control, and courageous escapes that define these worlds.
And I'm Melody, Andrew's co-host. Having experienced the depth of a cult firsthand, specifically the House of Yahweh, I am here as an advocate for fellow survivors.
The views and opinions expressed by our guests are their own and do not reflect the official policy or position of Cultimatum or its affiliates. The content discussed on this podcast are based on personal experiences and should not be construed as factual or legal advice. Neither the host nor the guest are liable for any statements made during the episodes. Listeners are encouraged to conduct their own research and seek professional advice where appropriate.
And before we dive into today's episode, we want to issue a trigger warning. Some episodes may cover explicit and potentially disturbing subjects such as sexual abuse, rape, human trafficking, suicide, and other sensitive subjects. Listener discretion is advised. Hey, Cultimatum fans, before we dive into today's episode, we need a tiny favor from each of you.
That's right. If you love what you hear, please take a moment to rate and review us on Apple and Spotify.
Your support helps us to reach new listeners and bring more awareness and attention to these important topics.
So tap that star rating, drop a quick review, and help us spread the word. It really does make a difference.
Thank you so much for tuning in and for your amazing support. We truly appreciate each and every one of you. Now let's get started with the show.
Here we go. Greetings and welcome back to another episode of Cultimatum, the culture of cults and human trafficking. And my name is Anonymous Andrew. And tonight with me is my co-host, Melody. Hello, Melody.
Hello, Andrew. Today's episode brings a story of defiance, extraordinary courage, and unshakable resilience. We're honored to welcome Sarah Carrington, an author, a nurse, and a speaker whose early life was shaped by 3 high-control religious communes in Canada. She's now the author of a powerful memoir and a fierce advocate for others who've left high-control religious environments. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Hello, and thank you.
Yes, welcome. So, where would you like to start?
Well, we could stick with the commune information if you want and the childhood that shaped me, or we can start off with how I overcame it, and I'm hoping to help others by sharing my story.
Okay, let's start from the beginning, right? That's where I was going.
Yeah. All right.
Sorry, Andrew.
Kind of silly. So why did I ask that question when that's what I wanted in the first place? It's silly, I know. But we want to give you the option. So, okay, we'll wrap it up because your book also, we want to talk about your book, right? Obviously. So,
yes.
Tell us how you got involved with a cult.
Well, I didn't really have a choice. I was born and raised into a cult. And it really wasn't intended to be that. Definitely wasn't something that any of or most of the leaders and participants intended it to be. My father actually was from the US and he came to Canada to dodge the draft. He was an extremely intelligent man, graduated with a couple of, Bachelor of Arts certificates, and somehow ended up as a second in command and principal at these communes. And I was born into that, had no idea. And I can explain in a bit just how it was and a lot of the different things. I mean, they controlled everything. By the time I hit 13, I was pissed off and full of, hormones. And I walked out with not a clue because I'd never been in the world. I had no idea. It was absolutely crazy. So that's how I...
What age was that?
Pardon me?
What age?
13.
13, okay.
So how did you end up in 2 more communes, or was that later in life, or was that before you left at 13?
That was before I left at 13. So it was still the same religious umbrella. And my father didn't really agree with the ideas of the first one, and he was called by God to the second one. And then things happened and we moved to the third one. And they all were very very tightly knit and interwoven through marriage and through family ties that, go through generations. Um, and I think that he probably was really hoping to build a utopia, a world where you're not, living in the mainstream with all the corruption and all the temptation and all the bad things that are happening. Um, and unfortunately, just the negative side of humanity brought in all the bad stuff, if that makes sense.
Oh, it makes sense to me. I've been in a similar situation.
So when you said you walked out at 13, did the family walk too?
No.
Okay. So did you leave the family? Where did you go at 13?
So when I left, I didn't realize that I wouldn't be allowed to go back, for starters. And let me back up a little bit. The communes I lived in were also boarding schools that had students that were teenagers from around the world that came and were sent there because their families didn't want to deal with them. So I knew of a little bit about that our diet was weird and that, there is TV out there or radio or food more than 2 meals a day, like that sort of thing. Like I had a good idea, right? Because we had teenagers that came around. Um, and then uh, my father fell off a cliff in front of me. Um, and that was traumatizing. And it really changed the home dynamic because my mother wasn't doing very well after that.
Did he
Um,
survive?
and it, no,
He did not survive. Oh gosh.
no, no, he did not. So that was understandably upsetting to put
Yeah.
it extremely mildly.
Yeah.
And let me just say that writing my book, sobbing, right? Like this was not an easy book to write because you're revisiting that trauma, right? Um, so a few months after that, I wanted to go to God so I could see my father again. And at the same time, the male negative controlling BS that comes from commune men pushed me over the limit. And I said, I'm done. And I got on my bicycle and I rode down that dirt road for miles, just no clue. Um, and it was a journey of like my mom, she said, okay, go ahead. Right. See ya. And, they were glad, I think, that I left. And I just bounced from place to place. I mean, by 16, I was I didn't ever realize I was homeless until I was writing my book, but I mean, I slept in a phone booth for safety, or I slept in a changing room on a bench so that nobody could see me if they were looking underneath the doors, like that sort of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I back up just a little bit. I have a question about, so did your mom and dad meet and join the cult together, or was your mom already in the commune and your dad met her when he joined, or did she bring him in? How did that all happen?
they met when he worked for uh so they met in Alberta, and neither of them were in the commune. She was raised middle class. He had a very good job that he would have done very well for himself, programming computers back in the early 70s. Um, and they would always tell the story that how he would ask her to marry him and she would say yes, and he would come to get her because he'd had to go work a bit further away, and he'd get there to get her and she'd say, no, I changed my mind. And on the third one, he said, are you sure? Because this is costing me a lot of money to drive, right, to pick you up. Um, and she had no idea. This was a brand new thing. He'd gone camping, and he ended up at a evangelist meeting. I don't know if you've heard of those, Melody,
Well, I know
where
what
they get.
evangelical means, but I have an idea. I have an idea. It sounds like a recruitment meeting, but
That's exactly what it is. It's exactly right. So a recruitment meeting, they're
yeah.
telling all the great things, their grand plan, and they make it sound really wonderful. And you're going to build this wonderful world. And he fell for it, hook, line, and sinker.
One big love bomb meeting, right? Love bombing,
Yes.
like
Yes.
like the
Yes.
promises and okay.
Yeah. I mean, it was based very biblical, right? So it was. I mean, you're gonna follow the Bible, and the commune I was based off of, they followed Ellen G. White's writings very, very strictly. Um, and so when my mom and dad met, he was not a part of that.
Just for clarification, that's Seventh-day Adventist, right?
Job,
It's Seventh Day
Andrew.
I'm
Yeah.
finally sinking in. It's absorbing. Okay.
Yeah. But it's like many other things, it's a branch off of it. Okay. It's not, I mean, you can drive by and there's churches everywhere and they don't believe to that extreme. I mean, these people went out into the middle of nowhere and got a huge lump of land and decided to live off it and build their community with the families that were accepted to be there and the people they brought in, and cut themselves off from everything and everyone and mainstream churches.
I'm just going to make a comment that's like more of a editorial comment. Anybody who follows Ellen White is extreme. So you said it wasn't really extreme because I know we've interviewed many people and it's a pretty wacky story of so anyway, continue.
Well, you're absolutely right. Ellen G. White is very extreme, and I suppose it depends how literal you're going to take it, and if you're going to actually go, okay, we're in the century we are now, not back then, right? Like, so that's the childhood I had. That was the upbringing, and so that maybe gives you an idea of how extremely sheltered I was. How I had absolutely no idea.
So I assume that doomsday was also a part of the teaching as well.
Huge part. Yeah. To live, to be, survive, and to be a part of the 144,000 was my dad's passion.
Mine too.
So, really?
My dad's. Oh yeah.
Which,
that was part of our cult.
And I'm going to call that out too, because all across the world for the last several hundred years, there's 144,000 souls that should have expired a long time. In other words, they should have filled that up a long time ago. So people living in when was this? In the 1990s, maybe 2020? I don't know. But wouldn't 144,000 souls have been filled up already? Like that quota has been met?
You would think.
2 centuries ago?
Think.
Okay, I just.
Andrew, there might be room for just a handful more. And it's always your cult.
Try and bump the next one off the list and be better.
Yes.
Hey?
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, is it like a jury that have a jury that a bunch of jurors waiting in case some of the jurors can't be juries? What do they call that when they bring in alternate jurors? So are there alternate 144,000 souls that you get to sit on the side in case one of the souls doesn't pan out? Never mind. Just keep going.
Well, It's kind of funny because that sounds very competitive, and yet I wasn't allowed board games. We never played sports. There was nothing like that because competition is bad. But it sounds like you're competing for heaven if you're trying to be in a part of the 144,000. You can see how I had
the only game you're allowed to play.
Yeah. It played well into my father's love of nature, though, and being a survivalist. Because as a part of the 144,000, you're going to be persecuted, and a lot of people are going to be killed for their beliefs. So being able to live off the land and go further and further into nature in a way to survive definitely played a huge part of my very formative years. And added some trauma and fear as a very young child.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm speechless because every time I hear that number, it's just that should have been that was from the Greeks, from the I think the Twin Flames, the Greeks that came up with it. They did the 144,000, and that was 5,000 years ago or something. So.
Well, it's in the Bible too. It's in Revelations.
It's in the Bible. So
yeah.
So even if it was one cult, like you said, does each cult get 144,000 souls, or
no? It's supposed to be.
Does there somebody keep a score? Total, right? Okay.
Well, and so this is where I think places like that continue to thrive because they can change their focus. Okay, so they'll stop focusing on the 144,000 and they'll change it to something else. Right.
Yep.
So they'll change it to be about health and diet or whatever the focus and what the fad is to help bring people in to live, to keep the ones that they want to control there.
Yes. Absolutely. Very, very good, Sarah. I agree 100%. That's like my cult bringing in polygamy.
Which is a form of gaslighting. It's just another we're going to
Right.
do this, but we're going to twist our words and it becomes this. And you're not going to see it's like the magic sleight of hand. You're not going to see what we just did, but you're going to follow them anyway. Okay. I'm going to shut up.
Well, it's this sort of thinking that got me into trouble because um, I just it just didn't make sense, you know? Like, for a while, you couldn't eat margarine, so we made our margarine out of cornmeal and put it in these, like, tubs, and you'd put cornmeal on your bread. Then margarine was okay, but you couldn't have cayenne because it was a stimulant, but yet, if nobody was looking and didn't tell anybody, some people had it in their house, or, you know, like, it was things were just they were one day you could and another day you couldn't, and it continued to evolve to fit. And I was like, "Well, how does that work? That doesn't make sense." And then when you bring in the creeps and the other stuff that happens that you're not supposed to talk about and the things
Like
that
the pedophilia, the sexual abuse, the emotional abuse, the beatings, but yes, it does. They do make it up as they go along.
yeah.
And one rule that works for one sect of a cult, we have the Amish on here, and they're all over the country, and every sect has their own different rules, protocols, or whatever you want to call them. So
The rules change with the whims of the leaders. That's usually the case. At least I know from my experience and from most of the stories we hear. You know, the leaders
Yeah.
decide what they're going to focus on and when, and they have their own reasoning behind that. Usually the followers are not privy to the real reasons. They're given a reason. They're just not given the true reason.
But I think that, like, a lot of the places are appealing because the world is such a hard place. Um, and there's not a lot of good all the time. And it can be a place where you run to try and heal or get better. And you don't realize how bad it is because it seeps its way in like an abusive marriage. You know what I mean? And so it looks okay, and then they build on it. They segregate you, or they control what's, you know, going in and out of your time and your day, like all of that. Um, so it can originally look like, oh, I'm gonna go heal, go get better, go have a safe place to be, and then you wake up one day and go, oh my God, how did this happen to me? And you don't know how to get out.
Yep. Yep, exactly. No, and Andrew and I talk about that correlation between abusive or toxic relationships and cults, and how in the beginning you usually don't see the bad stuff. The bad stuff stays hidden until you're more indoctrinated, until you're more groomed, until you're more and basically you're deeper into it. So it's a lot harder to pull yourself out.
especially if you were born into it, because then by the time you're 15, 18, 20, you've had 20 years of this indoctrination. So people like your parents or people who join maybe 25, 35, they don't have that level, that deep indoctrination that children are getting when they're literally born into the cult. So all right. So where are we in your story? Last I heard, you were on a bicycle going somewhere down a path, and you ended up at 17 homeless or something. And take us from there, or did we pass that?
No, well, you know what? A lot of times I say people should just read my book because honestly,
Okay.
there's just so much that happened. But I did. I walked away at 13, or like you said, rode a bike. And originally, they tried to house me with, you know, other commune families at other communes because I was so young. And they, as they said to my mom, they just couldn't handle someone with my problems, which she told me. And it really added to my anger because I was like, you created me. Your communities created me. Um,
And
and
just
then I
just
wanted
to
to go home.
clarify, your problems were the fact that you were questioning the teachings. Was that your problems?
There was a big part of it. I was extremely depressed and
Okay.
definitely suicidal ideation by the time I was 14. Just the nightmares and trauma and what I'm now realizing was panic attacks, um, from watching my father fall from that cliff were horrific.
Okay.
Um,
Yes, that makes sense. Yeah. That would be
yeah,
traumatic. That's yeah, okay.
plus some of the other traumas that had happened when I was younger. Um, so that was just not I was not doing well. Um, So I was bounced around, and then I was put with relatives whose dynamic was so unhealthy. It was so unhealthy. I have two very dear friends, and they both read my book, and they were like, "You were very kind to that family." And I said, "Well, you know what? They're still alive. I don't need to moan and groan and play victim now at this age." But that did not add or help. Like, the trauma just continued living there. And I think by 16, I was done. Did one last horrific trauma to me, that it took me a long time to even realize that I probably still am healing even now. And so after that, I was in just a spiral, like a destructive spiral. And that takes me to about 16, 17, like you said, Andrew.
Okay, earlier at the beginning, you had said, do you want to start at the beginning where these communes, or do you want to where you got out and started to? So it's just would be the middle part of your story when were you free? What would be the acronym here?
Okay.
Physically, you're physically out and mentally out, or you're done. Do you familiar with the acronym PMO or PMO? Physically and mentally out. So like you're still in.
Yeah.
You're still in a cult, but you're not mentally into the cult, but you still go to the meeting. Like a lot of JWs were like that. So were you, or there's POMO, you were physically out and mentally out. See how much I've learned?
Yes,
That's a lot of
I'm very,
acronyms.
yes, you're impressing me, Andrew.
Well, you're my teacher. So, and our guest. So where are you at this point at 16?
So, and I can't say that acronym back because there was a few there, but I was physically and mentally out. However, you have to bear in mind, I was a minor who had no legitimate source of income. And the work experience I had would have been working in a mill at 12 and working in a bakery at, 13. So these were not believable. I had no education background to be going to school, assuming I could support myself. I may have been free mentally and physically, but I was a prison in the current world I'd gone to because technically I should have had a guardian. I should have had someone looking after me, giving me a place to live, food to eat, things like that. And I didn't have that. So I jumped from the frying pan to the fire. It went from one prison to the other, and I had to play the waiting game.
Yes.
And I did not really understand how it went. And that was the early 90s, mid 90s, when there was so much changing with technology and a lot of other stuff. And I had no idea. I was like, because everything was new to me. So I was like, well, isn't this normal? Everybody else is saying, oh, this is new, having a cell phone, having a pager. I was like, a lot of stuff is new.
Especially coming from a cult, and even back then, because even technology like that we have today, that didn't exist back then. But you were at the very fringe beginnings of that. Like the home PC came out in 1998. Windows 98 was one of the first. Actually, it was one before that, but whatever. You get the idea. So where were you living at this point?
Let's see. I had just come back from Montreal. I'd been out in Montreal for a spell. And I was in southern BC. Yeah.
British Columbia. Okay.
Yeah,
but with dare I say commune, or with a family, or with?
I never went back to a commune. I was on my own. Yeah. After 16. After 16, I no longer lived with families.
Wow.
And I was on my own until I became a family.
Wow. Yeah. And like you said, with no skills it's not like the commune raised you to know how to be an independent citizen in the normal world.
No.
So you were like a fish out of water.
Yeah, exactly. So at 17, I still tried to go to school, public school. And I was attempting that, and it was just such a struggle. And I tried to get government assistance. We call it welfare here. But I was underage. I was still a minor. And at that time, my mom all of a sudden wanted me to come and live at home. So they refused. It was such
because all of a sudden a parent claimed you. But for those couple of years, you were a minor wandering the streets of cities, not educated, not financially able to support yourself, sleeping, as you said, in some closet, changing rooms, and then you went to try to get education, and you said that wasn't. But as soon as your mom, and then your mom came to claim you at some point. And
Well, when I applied for welfare, they went to who was legally my guardian, because had always been legally my guardian. I had a letter of emancipation, which allowed me to travel across Canada, if the police picked me up or whatever happened, or if I went to school and enrolled in a high school, um, that I was allowed to be on my own, but it wasn't a court order. It wasn't through the government. So to apply for welfare as a minor, they contacted my mother and she said, "Oh, I would love to have her back."
Let me
Yeah,
just
my answer
clarify.
is similar to that.
Was she still part of the commune at that point?
So after my father's death, she remarried, unfortunately, to a man who was even stricter than the commune. Um,
Mm,
and he took her to the middle of nowhere, and they lived in this little log house he built. And he helped her. Oh, that's it. He did not help her. They raised my siblings there. Um,
mm,
and it was horrifying. It was horrifying to
okay.
see. Her health was horrible. It was like watching her just slowly
So
die. Her skin was
she ended up
yellow.
in
It
another
was
cult-like situation. Was he like a cult leader, would you say?
No, he was just a predator. He was just a narcissistic,
Ah,
small man syndrome predator who saw a woman who was destitute and a widow with 3 extremely young children that he could take
mm,
advantage of. And she was not the first and not the last that he's done this to. Like, he just
ah,
yeah.
wow.
So she went for that and then said, "Oh, Sarah can come back." And I was like, "Hells to the no."
Yeah. Oh gosh.
did you get back into school? I'm trying to put together a timeline in the story. So you wanted to go to school and get support, welfare, you said,
Yeah.
but they contacted your next kin, which would be your mother, but you were emancipated. But if you say no, I'm not going home. How did that help your cause, or did it, or didn't?
Well, I didn't say it that way to the social worker. I said, "How about you ask if I'm allowed to go to school? Why don't you ask, am I eating 3 meals a
Interesting.
day?
Okay.
Why don't you ask, am I going to be, how is this actually going to work?" Um, and thankfully, I was well spoken at that age. And when those questions were posed, I ended up getting social assistance, and I did go to school for a spell.
Well, you were smart to have them ask those questions. I
Yes,
wouldn't have even
absolutely.
necessarily thought of that, but that was brilliant.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Like, you can't say again, take me back, because I know you're not sending me to school. So, like,
And you and in your favor, in defense, you really wanted to get an education.
I did. I didn't realize, and I do now, thankfully, having gone back to school as a mature adult. I didn't realize how, first of all, just having a teenage brain is so hard. Not having any sort of parentage through any of my teenage years and having no previous education. Like, the homeschooling that I had was so limited. I mean, I could read and write and do math, and, I was intelligent, but it didn't fit that square box that they put in public school that everybody's supposed to fit into. Note, I said
Right.
supposed to, right?
Right.
So that last attempt to go to school on my own, living on my own, I think I lasted, a couple of months. And honestly, these kids, their biggest issues were, I don't like the lunch my parents made me, or I wasn't allowed to wear this, or, I have a curfew and I have to be home by 6 or whatever, right? Like, that was their biggest concern. My concern was, I've got, $50 to last me a full month to pay for groceries. I don't have winter boots or a jacket, or, like, I had a lot bigger concerns. And so I had absolutely nothing in common with these students. And that was just the materialistic and emotional side of it. The educational side of it, they learned a lot of things, grades 1 through 10, that I never learned, didn't even have a clue about. And you don't find it in a textbook.
So there was no kind of schooling in the commune before age 13. They didn't. I mean, did they teach you your alphabet? Did they teach any of the basics even?
So they didn't initially. So I was born in the 70s, dating myself here. Uh, they didn't initially have schools. By the time I was 14, they had a school that was grade 1 to 8 at one of the communes. But they didn't send me to that when I was there. They just assumed I wouldn't fit and they put me to work in the bakery um, when I was 13. Because I was sent back to one of the communes initially for the few months. Again, it's I tried to timeline it in the book. It gets a bit murky. Um, and then think until long after I'd left, they had schools, elementary schools. They didn't need the other ones. So my mom started
And
teaching me. Go ahead.
do you know, I'm sorry, do you know if there was like some legal repercussion and that's why they started putting schools in? Were they getting pushback from the government? Were people reporting that the children in these communes are not getting properly educated? Or what was the reason? Because I'm guessing there was some kind of pushback that forced them to do that, because it sounds like they really preferred the child labor to the education.
Honestly, I don't know what they were thinking, and I'm not sure what caused them to start the school. The one that did that I knew about, they didn't intend it to be a commune. They just intended it to be like a health retreat and living off the grid. And they started that school for their children at the appropriate age. And the people that are still a part of that stayed are just mortified that that's what they ended up creating in hindsight, or at least some of them are. As for the other two, I think they didn't really care. They're like, "Oh, we're gonna teach them at home and do, homeschooling," which I'm not a big fan of because you don't have to like there's no follow-up from the government side of it. Do you know what I mean? Like kids
Yeah.
are just left there and it's assumed that they're being taught.
Yeah. Well, and it
Yeah.
also, in my opinion, leaves room for possible abuse and neglect that goes unchecked or unknown. I mean, it just, who knows what's happening to these children because nobody's checking up on them.
Yep. Well, it's true, although the foster system is abhorrent and it's hard because I've been gone from that sort of lifestyle for over 30 years and the world's not much of a better place, really. So, I mean, it's not being born and raised into a commune and having no choice and no knowledge is awful. But being born into poverty or into a third world country or, where you're left orphaned or whatever reason and you're stuck in a foster home and you have no advocate is horrific too.
Right.
So I
Older than you, and I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and I still remember. As a matter of fact, Netflix is throwing out a bunch of documentaries now about a lot of children that were kidnapped in the 60s and 70s, and where are they today? Do they ever get found? I was watching something. I don't know if you remember, there was a woman that disappeared off a cruise ship in 1998. Netflix did a story on, did they ever find her? She literally disappeared in a half an hour. They saw her at one point, and then 20 minutes later, she was off the ship and nobody could find her. And then they found evidence that she was alive. Anyway, the point I'm getting at is you mentioned something about the social workers, and nothing has changed in 30, 40 years. Social work, when they're supposed to be helping the children or coming in. So if there's a report on a child being abused or neglected in a home, right out here where I live on let's just say east of New York City, just 2 years ago, 3 years ago, there was a child that died they chained the kid in the garage because he did something, the parents did, and he died from exposure. Anyway, they're not, in 30, 40 years, your government and our government haven't improved childcare.
so to make it go like a little to bring it back to me.
Okay. Yeah, let's do that because we gotta kind of sort of, but we got
Yeah.
about 10, 15 minutes.
We
But I
can't
want to get to your book.
we can't solve all the world's issues today.
Yeah.
No,
So
although we will someday, but not today. Okay.
like I knew that I grew up weird. And I was told because I found a street clinic and I used to go there quite a bit to the nurse and the counselor there when I was 17, 18. And they're like, you have to write a book. And I was like, I'm not ready yet. It's not even done. And then I ended up at 23 raising my siblings and becoming a mom to 5 children. So it was busy, right? And I finally wrote this book because I'm not the only one. There's so many, your guests that you guys bring onto your show, there's so many memoirs and, documentaries. There are people that are escaping and walking away and asking too many questions, or there's ones that didn't, but they somehow transitioned, and kids I knew. And so I wrote my book to share my story, but also to share like don't give up, right? Life is hard. Doesn't matter where you come from or what battles you faced. You don't have to be a commune survivor or a cult survivor, but you can do it. And to give hope and encouragement and to say you're not alone, because I was so lonely and I felt so alone. And these kids that are coming out of all these different places that they've been raised in, the boys that are kicked out, the lost boys from Utah, like all of that. It's like, you know what? You're not alone. And like reach out, find a person, ask for help, like read my story, read my second story that's going to come out. Like there's ways, there are good people and there are good organizations. And so that's why I was excited to talk to both of you and to share, because
Good.
I want other people to realize we can do this.
Out of the 70 something episodes we've done so far, I can think of maybe one or two where the guests were not quite out yet or healed yet, or they were still struggling. But the rest of them are all that we have interviewed, obviously, have like you said, have memoirs, have written books, have viral TikTok accounts, and are doing great. And so tell us where you are today. And some of these are gonna be personal. Like, did you ever get married? Did you have ever kids of your own? What faith do you believe in today? Those are going to be my questions. The Melody's going to hit you with a bunch of her. We have a bunch of questions, but did you ever get married? Did you ever start a family of your own?
I got married. I'm happily divorced, not getting married again. I was 3 months pregnant when my mother died. And so I took my siblings, I had my baby, married the guy I was with, because that's what you do, and figured out how to raise my teenage siblings. So I had 5 kids in my 20s. Did I get married? What was your other question?
Just let me clarify. You said 5 siblings, but you raised them, 5 children.
So I had 2 children, 3 siblings.
Your biological children.
Yeah, 2 biological children. I got custody of my 2 siblings when I was pregnant with my first child.
Gotcha. Okay.
The man I was with had a daughter, so that was stepdaughter. So I had 4 children, and I was like, I kept running out of seatbelts, and I said, "What the hell? Let's have one more." So I had 5.
They gotta make bigger minivans. Yeah. Where are you in your faith?
I've been asking myself that because I knew you were going to ask me that question, because I did a little research on your podcast. I would say that I'm a Christian, except I don't necessarily have a strong relationship with what someone would call God or Jesus. But I really believe in being a good person and living as a Christian without making it about someone else.
Good answer. And yes. That's a common answer that a lot of people who come to they're either complete atheists or they still have some sort of a higher power, but they're not fully attached to that higher power, but it exists out there. So, okay.
I was going to say, and most of them are just at the point where they're like, they're never going to trust organized religion again.
Right, exactly. And why would you?
I don't trust anything or anyone, pretty much. So
even a mainstream one like Catholicism. I mean, I wouldn't. Whatever. Okay. I think that was it on my question. Just would you know
where I'm at?
Say again?
You said you wanted to know where I'm at right now.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I'll tell you, and this will pass. You're talking to me at the most stressful time I think that I've physically acknowledged in my life, because I just finished nursing school and I have to write the government exam.
Okay. But guess what? That's part of life. When you graduate any medical, especially medical school or something like that, to get like law degrees in medicine, to get propelled into that career, you got to pass a bar or exam.
Well, no, that's not a complaint. I'm very proud of myself for that.
Yeah, I was just going to give you kudos. Yes. That's great. Yeah, fantastic.
Absolutely. I'm just going to say, Sarah, you've survived everything else. I think you're going to do fine. You've come this far.
Yeah, I think this would almost be considered good stress, maybe.
Maybe, yes. Yes.
And this world we need more nurses. There's a shortage of nurses. So I'm glad you chose that field.
Okay. I have a couple of weird questions that I'm going to preface my normal question with. I don't know if they're weird. I'm just curious. Were you ever able to do any type of healing in your relationship with your mom before she passed? Or was your memoir part of that healing for you that you did not get to have with her physically before she passed?
I don't know about healing. I mean, I was 23 when she passed. I did. I'm very glad, and I went and visited her, and I said to her that I understood why she just walked away from me when I was 13 and stopped being a parent to me, and put priority on the younger children. So I did kind of have that sort of, oh my God, the word is gone. It's like a noun for an
Closure.
emotion. Thank you. It's
You're welcome.
perimenopause. I lose my nouns.
Oh, I have it. I have it too.
Okay, so that one, I got the closure. Thank you.
Yes, and closure is important. I mean, and that's part of the healing. And yeah, I'd forgotten that you were so young when she passed. So yeah, that's you hadn't even really deconstructed everything that happened to you in your commune experience at that point, I'm sure.
No, writing my book really gave me a lot of reflection, and I went back to counseling while I was writing it, and I'll probably keep going back every once in a while for a little tune-up, to be truthful.
Right.
Just because every birthday gives, a little bit more reflection on things.
Okay, my next question, which is still not my final question, is what type of relationship do you have with your siblings today with everything that they've been through? And were you able to help them deconstruct after they came to live with you and they left their situation?
Well, we're very close. We're definitely very close. I raised them, right? They're my kids, kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know about helping them deconstruct. And we're our hardest judge and jury, I think. And I'm realizing now at the age I'm at now, I go, oh, I should have done things better. But I also realize, and my youngest sibling, or one of them, they put it really well. And they said, you were growing up when you were raising us.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I didn't know how to cook. I didn't know how to, or at least not meat and food from here, from the world, right? But they don't.
The expression is children raising children.
Children?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what it was. I'm so grateful the judge gave them to me. Honestly, when we went in and they asked to be with me because it was they wanted to be with me. And he said yes. I'm so glad he said yes, because I must have looked just like such a kid, 8 months pregnant, my belly out so far I couldn't see my feet, and he still gave them to me. And he said to them, they were so young, and he's like, "I can listen to your sister," and they said, "Yes, sir." And away we went. We muddled our way through, and
wow,
we're holiday people.
That's amazing. That really makes me happy that you have good relationships with all of them, because it could have ended very differently, with all that trauma for all of you. So yes, that was definitely a blessing that they were able to go with you. So I'm going to jump to my final question, which you probably, if you've done some research on the podcast, already know what it is, which is, what advice would you have for people that might be in a similar situation or might be thinking about joining something that is similar to a cult or a commune? What advice would you give them?
Listen to your gut.
Yeah. That's good advice.
I mean, there's a lot more that would go with it, but the bottom line is, if you have that little voice on your shoulder or that little twinge in your stomach, you listen to your gut. And you know what? Phone a friend.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, Reed just filled in.
Yeah.
No, phone a friend.
It's good. It's good advice.
It was funny, but it's exactly what you should do. We asked you your advice, but the other advice is to get on the freaking internet and research the cult.
Yes.
Well, you don't know it's a cult. Research the organization. Just do your due diligence and type something and get stories and reviews and all that kind of stuff. I have a quick question, and because it's staring at me, but I can't see it. You have a tattoo on your right shoulder. What is it? Not the other one. Oh, okay. Oh, interesting. You're not going to believe this. I have that on my back. Okay.
Really?
Yeah. Exact same one. I mean, not the exact same one. I mean, that's your artist, but I have, should I say it? Because the people can't see it. It's a skull with a snake going through it. And that was one of my second tattoos. It's funny.
With a dagger with 3 hearts.
That I don't have, but okay. But I got the skull with the snake going through the eye, both the eye and the mouth.
Sockets, yeah.
From this, but when you were sitting up front, believe it or not, it looked like a cross. That's why I asked.
Oh, no.
And see the snake's tongue? I think go back to your regular spot. Go back to Mel. Can you see that? Does that look like a cross?
I could see how it could at that from a certain angle.
Yeah. So I thought maybe you had like a crucifix on your right shoulder, and I just wanted to see it. So it's not. It's a great tattoo. Okay.
I do have a different tattoo. I can't show it to you, and I got it when I was maybe 19 years old, and I was severely depressed and sad and lonely, and I wanted a circle, and half would be like sunshine, a smiling, happy sun, because I was very happy, and the other half would be a skull. And it looked like a Pac-Man, but I didn't know what Pac-Man was when people said I had a tattoo of Pac-Man.
I don't see that.
And well, there you go.
Yeah.
And then
I got a very similar one on my neck.
Okay. Cover-ups became a thing, and so now I have it's like the masks with ribbons, and it has the dates. So I've got the happy lady ribbon, and then the skull, and it has my parents' dates, and then my children.
We seem to have, I don't know, Melly, I don't know how we have to go back and listen to all of them, but a lot of the cult survivors, when they got out, got tattoos, which was like part of their expression of one of the first things they could do. Obviously, everybody got a cell phone, and they got computers, and they got, a couple of weeks ago, we had an Amish woman on who learned to drive for the first time, things that we take for granted. But a lot of people went out and got tattoos, and I thought that was interesting, which is something.
Yeah, I think it's a way of expressing your independence,
Absolutely.
your freedom, symbolism, for sure.
Yeah.
And marking
As you
your
see,
body.
I went crazy. I expressed myself.
Well, just quickly, Sarah, before we end, I would like you to just give us the title of your book. We will definitely have that in our show notes as well. But if you could give our audience the title and where they can find it, and then we'll have it in the show notes. So if you could just tell everybody where they can find it.
Sure. So my book is called Where Do I Belong? It's my first memoir, and a second one is coming. It's available on Amazon or any e-reader platform. And of course, you can go to my website, which is Sarah Carrington Author. I use Sarah Carrington Author for pretty much every social media platform there is. The cover of the book is, I'll show it to you because you can see it. I know the readers can't. That is my dad and I in front of a teepee that we built, and we would camp in that without sleeping bags in the winter for fun.
Wow.
Okay.
I am very good at that, by the way. I can build you a teepee and live in it and eat tree bark and whatever else. Because
do you still do that for fun?
You know what? I moved up to glamping. I actually have stayed in like tents, and a tent that had like a bed when I went on a vacation once. And
there we go.
I drive to the places instead of hiking.
There we go.
But yeah, but my book is Where Do I Belong? And it takes you right up until where I get custody of the children. And then my second book will be more how I got through an abusive, violent, alcoholic marriage and got through that, and then raised my children as a single mom and went back to school. And but I've been really busy with nursing school, so I haven't done that yet.
I have another podcast about dating and relationships. So when you finish that book, if we don't think it belongs on this podcast, maybe we'll put you on that one if you want to promote that book. So,
oh yeah, good idea.
Because it's a relationship podcast, and I'm a recovering alcoholic, so I know all the ins and outs of that. So. Okay. Sarah, thank you so much for joining us. What a fantastic, incredible story and journey. Really.
Yes, thank you. And to the audience, all of those links for all of her books and social media links, everything will be in the show notes. So take a look at that if you're wanting to look her up and find her. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Take care.
And once again, we want to thank Sarah so much for coming on the show and sharing her story with us. What a fun interview! What just a neat, inspiring lady, a neat, inspiring story. And I think her book would be a very interesting, good read.
Yeah, and I think she. Oh, I don't know if she said it. It might be available on audio, which would be great because that's.
I think she did say that.
Yeah, she said something about that, and I because don't read very well because of its ADHD. I'd like to listen to it, but yeah, I thought it was a great interview, a fun interview. It flowed, and she had she's you can tell she's a resilient teenager. At 13, she left home.
Yeah,
and for 6 to something years.
Well, and good for her that she had that spark in her right from the beginning. It sounded like even in her childhood, she was questioning that something here just doesn't seem right or feel right.
Good.
And sometimes even with that indoctrination from childhood or birth, there are some people that just have that sixth sense, even as children, that something is not right with this place.
And I hope there's more of them out there because these cults are depending on the children to carry on their cults into the future.
Absolutely. That's why a lot of times they encourage that, the no birth control or have lots of babies or get married young and start creating more members for us type of teachings. So, hopefully there's more and more out there that just have that sixth sense that it's not something they want to be part of once they get to the age where they can, get on a bicycle and run away.
And then, of course, raising her children, her 2 biological, and then her siblings, and then to get into a marriage with a man that was apparently, she didn't get into it, but the name of the book or the theme about alcoholism and all that. So I would like to have her back. Let's, when that's available, we'll talk about which podcast you should come on, but I want to hear that story too.
Yeah, no, I mean,
so thank you, Sarah.
Yes, thank you so much, Sarah, and we wish you all the best in your endeavors for your career and your nursing. I'm sure you're going to do fine, like I said. And we want to thank you for coming on the show. And as always, we want to thank all of you as well for tuning into Cultimatum. We do appreciate your support in our mission to expose the truth and highlight the voices of survivors.
If you're enjoying the show, don't forget to rate, review us on Apple and Spotify. And don't forget to follow, share, and keep listening to all of our latest episodes.
And you can also follow Cultimatum on Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and YouTube for more update and content.
Don't forget to join our Facebook group, Cultimatum Podcast, where we dive deeper into these important topics.
And if you are a cult survivor and you're looking for any additional support, we do recommend joining the Cult Escape and Recovery group on Facebook.
If you're interested in more of my work, and we're going to stop here for just a second because by the time this episode airs, the Anonymous Andrew Podcast.com website was very old. I created it 2.5 years ago and I kind of let it go. Well, not anymore. It's up, it's new, it's renovated, it's sexy, it's vibrant, but it's still got more work to do. And you'll be able to go to cultimatumpodcast.com and it will bring you to the Cultimatum player where you can listen to the episodes, and there'll be lots of fun things on there. I'm blindsiding Melody here. There's a couple things we'd like to do. We may do some polls and some other things. So by the time you hear this episode, go check out cultimatumpodcast.com as well as digitaldating.com, anonymousandrew.com, and you can check out all the other podcasts that I have going on over there.
And if you have a story related to cults or human trafficking that you would like to share with us, you can email us at cultimatumpodcast@gmail.com.
Very good. Yeah, good. Okay. Want to support? I'm laughing because it's an inside joke. No, it's not. Riverside's cutting off. So we can tell them. Cultimatumpodcast@gmail.com is our email. And Riverside, every time they edit the episode, they take that out for some reason. And they've done it to Melody and they've done it to me. And so we're trying something new.
We're testing.
.com. Testing. Want to support the show? You can help us help us cover production costs by buying us a cup of coffee. In the show notes, there's a link that says buy us a cup of coffee. You click on that and you can donate to the show.
As always, stay safe, stay informed, and remember, you are not alone.